Tashdil everyone, I'm Sakina Bhatt and welcome to Tibet This Week, a weekly feature in English that tells you about this week's news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines first. His Holiness the Dalai Lama offers condolences at loss of children's lives in Himachal Pradesh bus accident. CTA President Dr. Lobsang Singye delivers the Burman lecture at Emory University. CTA President Dr. Lobsang Singye visits Washington, D.C. New report to the United Nations unveils systematic violation of human rights in Tibet. U.S. congressional delegation visits Central Tibetan Administration and assures strong support for Tibet. On Tuesday this week, His Holiness the Dalai Lama expressed his deep sadness at reports of a school bus crash not far from Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh. In a letter addressed to Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Sri Jairam Thakur, His Holiness wrote, "These children were their family's pride and joy, their hope for the future, as children are all across the country. It is a tragedy that they should have died on their way home from school. I would like to offer my condolences to those families who have lost loved ones and to others affected by this unfortunate accident." The President of the Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Singye, delivered the 2018 Harold J. Burman Distinguished Lecture in Law and Religion at the prestigious Emory University in Atlanta on Monday this week. Speaking on the topic, the Tibetan people's transition to secular democracy, President Dr. Singye claimed that Tibetan democracy is one of the most unique and interesting democratic systems in the whole world. He said, "Tibetan democracy is multidimensional. Unlike most other democracies, it evolved as a top-down initiative, while most other democracies were a down-up struggle." He further explained the four salient features of Tibetan democracy and said that while democracy in itself is one of the most popular forms of governance for a long time, the concept is not without contradictions in the Tibetan context. On Wednesday this week, Dr. Lobsang Singye visited Washington, D.C. and met with Senator Steve Daines, who is also a commissioner of Congressional Executive Commission on China at latter's office on the Capitol Hill. Senator Daines shared his experiences on his recent official visit to Tibet and said that he has raised various issues, including religious persecution in Tibet, with Chinese authorities. Dr. Singye briefed the senator on the current situation in Tibet. He particularly requested Senator Daines to discuss the middle way policy, a policy adopted by CTA to resolve the Tibet issue with the Chinese authorities whenever opportunity arises. Earlier this month, the Tibetan Bureau, Geneva, has submitted a new human rights report titled Human Rights for Tibet to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, commonly known as the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. The report underpinned how China's development goals are systematically violating the economic, social, and cultural rights of the Tibetan people. It also broadly covers the economic marginalization of Tibetan people amidst reports of growth, the forced removal of Tibetan nomads from their ancestral lands, infringement of religious freedom under the guise of development, and the intensification of crackdown on Tibetan human rights defenders. The report concluded with a list of recommendations to China on how best the human rights issues in Tibet could be addressed. The report also identified cases that indicate China's failure in the implementation of recommendations that has been accepted in the previous review cycle in 2013. The joint report was submitted as a part of civil society's contribution towards the 31st session of the Universal Periodic Review, which will be held in Geneva from 5th to 16th November 2018. China, along with 13 other UN member states, are scheduled to appear for a peer review of human rights obligations, commitments, and records for the third time. A two-member U.S. congressional delegation comprising of Representative Ileana Ross-Latane and Representative Claudia Tenney visited the Central Tibetan Administration on Wednesday last week. The Kasha of the Central Tibetan Administration, led by President Dr. Singh, organized a welcome reception and expressed his gratitude to the United States government and the Congress for their continued bipartisan support to the Tibet issue. Representative Ileana Ross-Latane, in her address, said,
"Those of us in the United States Congress understand this issue, and we are working side by side with you in a cooperative manner. And I thank all of the people I just named, because we have been working with them to formulate U.S. policy toward support for the people of Tibet. We have been studying the repressive policies of Beijing in Tibet, and they've only gotten worse. Additional travel restrictions against Tibetans and against U.S. citizens who want to go to Tibet to know more about the country and to learn and see what we can do to help the people. To have Beijing say that they are going to determine the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama is one of the most insulting aspects of that repressive regime. That recognized His Holiness the Dalai Lama with our highest honor, the Congressional Gold Medal. And that was not only significant because of what it represents, but also the signal that it sends to China, to other oppressors, that the United States Congress stands side by side with the people of Tibet.
She also promised to propose a bill in the Congress to pressurize China to resume dialogue with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. She further promised to exert effort for the appointment of a special coordinator for Tibetan issues in the State Department and for the passage of the Reciprocal Access to Tibet bill sponsored by Congressman Jim McGovern. Representative Claudia Tenney spoke about the legacy of the Tibetan struggle and urged the younger generation of Tibetans to move forward with pride and dignity to fulfill their destiny of freedom and respect for human rights. So much for this week. See you next time and have a great weekend.